Hey, this is Tyler Kober of Bullseye Bicycle, and today we're going to go over accessories, particularly some safety stuff, not only for keeping your bike safe, but also you safe. And we're going to jump right in first to helmets. Helmets are probably the #1 safety gear that you should be wearing while riding your bicycle. And if you're 15 years or younger, it's mandatory that you wear a helmet. That's a state law here in North Carolina, to my knowledge. And it is a good thing to do no matter what age you are at. So a lot of times, parents are mostly concerned about kids' helmets, fit, and what they should be wearing. This is sort of, basic helmet for a smaller kid, probably toddler age. And we are a Giro dealer and have both Giro and Giant bicycle helmets. This is sort of that, standard kids helmet. I would recommend not having a child either in a trailer or in a child carrier on the back of a bike until they're at least 1. It seems like the standard rule for kids on bikes or in trailers is that the big issue is that kids can't hold their head up. They don't have enough muscle control for their head because it's a big ball on top, and they don't have that enough motor control or strength to kind of hold their dome up. So don't start doing this kind of stuff until they're 1. But a helmet like this is going to be a great way to get a kid in a trailer or something like that. This would be something on the smaller end for someone who's probably 1 to 2 and that type of thing. Every helmet on that has any amount of retention system is going to have something on the back. And to kind of give a little bit of a close-up here, this has this dial on the back, and every helmet is going to have some sort of retention system these days, unless it's a lot older, that holds the back of your head where your head tapers, and it really helps the helmet grab onto your head and make it so it doesn't slide around. On cheaper helmets, something that you're going to see in a big box store, sometimes these are going to be elastic. And the elastic is okay, but it does wear out more quickly, and it also doesn't tend to hold as tightly. So I really do recommend getting something that has this dial type, and almost every good quality helmet these days is going to come with that. Moving on to a bigger helmet for an adult, there is going to be something along the lines of this Giro helmet, which is an extra large. So we're going to the other extreme. This is going to be somebody that has, for a bigger head. And the best thing really to do when trying to fit and size a helmet is to literally just put it on and try it. Usually the person, in going to a shop and having some help you try it on, they're going to get a sense pretty quickly of what size your head is. Usually you can make a pretty educated guess by just looking at you and popping something on and trying it for size. With sizing a helmet, some of it's going to come down to the shape of your head. Also, your hairstyle. We do get people who have braids or like a bigger hairstyle, and that's going to add a lot of volume to your head. And so sometimes you are going to have to really search for a helmet to find something that's going to fit you well. And again, in trying it on, it's going to help a lot in figuring out what's going to work. But this also has that retention system on the back. The little dial here will tighten down on the back of your noggin and give you good fit. Try that on. This is kind of that standard, more open helmet. So you've got polystyrene, and then the top of the plastic is sort of injected into the plastic, and it's fused to it. These are lighter weight helmets, and they're really single use. So Once this thing has a big impact, it's best to replace it. Also, on the inside of the helmet, there'll be a little sticker up in here, and that sticker usually will have a born on date. And when that sticker says that it is 7, 8, 9 years old, it's good to replace it. A lot of that has to do with how the helmet is stored and sort of the life of the helmet. If it's hitting the pavement a lot, like a kid's helmet, it should probably be replaced more often. If you're storing it inside in your nice climate-controlled house, that's going to help the life of the helmet a lot. So I really recommend doing that versus leaving it in your very hot shed or garage. The polystyrene will dry out and become brittle and die much more quickly, and you'll need to replace it more often. So bringing it inside is a really good thing rather than leaving it on the porch for it to kind of get banged around. So this is that sort of more standard style, more aero helmet. This one comes with the visor. I particularly like a visor on a helmet because if you're going into the sun, you can kind of dip your head down, let that helmet do the work just like a hat, and block some of the sun knocking you right in the face. And it can actually even be good for a little bit of rain. Let me show you just real quickly a couple of different styles of helmet. Actually, my helmet, and this is more of a mountain bike shape. The mountain bike helmets tend to have a bigger visor on them. Some of that's just style, but also, again, having that bigger visor is nice. A little bit of it is safety. If you run into something, this visor is actually going to protect you and break away. It also has more coverage on the back. The back of this helmet has you know, a bigger and lower positioning, so it's gonna cover the back of your head better. And if you fall off your bike, especially in a mountain biking type situation where there's gonna be rocks and roots and trees, it's nice to have a little bit fuller coverage. And this is starting to become sort of the norm for a mountain bike helmet. And then last but not least, this is a helmet by Bern, but this is more of that skate style helmet. And so a little bit different. This has a harder shell. The plastic on it is a little bit thicker, and their technology is called zip mold, though everyone has probably some other name for it. But same thing, the plastic is fused to the polystyrene. In this case, the plastic's a little bit thicker. And the idea with these skate style helmets a lot of times is that they're a little bit tougher, they're a little bit more durable. They don't have as much venting typically, so they're going to be a little bit warmer. We only have a certain amount of vents on the top of this thing. So it's going to be a little bit warmer. Also, same thing with as the mountain bike helmet, we've got more protection in the back here. It comes a little bit lower. But this is great for that person who is an avid cyclist. Maybe they use their bike every day. They use it as their transportation. This thing is going into the grocery store with them and banging around in a grocery cart. Maybe it's getting attached to a bar stool and getting knocked around. So more of a multi-impact sort of thing. And if you need something that is more durable, this is going to be a really good way to go. Then let's go back to the fit portion of it. So you've picked sort of the style of the helmet that you're looking for, that you like, that you gravitate towards. Next thing is to, like I said, pop it on and adjust that dial down to fit you. When you're doing that, you don't want the dial to be so tight that you feel like it's going to give you a headache. You want it to be snug, but not tight. This is usually what I will say. I will take my hat off and show you this guy go on. So this fits my head really well. You want the top of the helmet to hit the top of your head. You want to make sure that the top of your head and the top of the helmet can feel each other, making sure that the helmet is all the way on top of your head and is giving you full coverage. And then dialing that dial down. These are mostly designed so you can adjust them while it's on your head, so sort of a one-handed adjustment. And then the strap, the last but not least, the strap should kind of come down below your chin. I like to do the rule of 2 fingers, so if the strap is just below your chin with a little bit of slack, enough that you can put 2 fingers in and it should be tight, then when you take them out, it's going to hang just below your neckline so you can still talk. and be able to move your jaw. A good test is at the bottom of the throw of your jaw. So when you open your mouth all the way, it should basically become tight at the bottom of that stroke of your jaw. So it gives you a little bit of room, so it's not choking you, but it is going to engage if you were to crash, and it's going to help save your head. This helmet, last but not least, let's talk about helmet technology just a little bit. This helmet is a MIPS equipped helmet, and there's a little tiny yellow sticker right here, which is a little bit battered from it being used. But the MIPS technology is a newer technology. It's a multi-directional impact protection system, which is what MIPS is. And that is basically a suspension on the inside of the helmet in here that helps with concussion. And that's a really great thing to check out my awesome hair that's been had a haircut in about 4 months. So looking a little rough on the hair. I'll put this back on quickly. The MIPS technology is a great technology, though. It's finally come down in price. You used to see this stuff at $200 to $300, and now you can get into a MIPS equipped helmet for about $50, and it's pretty much what we're exclusively carrying for our helmets, because there's really no reason at that for, say, maybe $10 more to get something that is going to be safer. There's other technologies that are out there that are coming around by Giro and other companies as well, and you know, it's a matter of, you know, technology getting better to make more helmets more and more safe. So, you know, keep your eyes peeled for that stuff as it comes out, because there is more and more technology coming out for helmets. That is about it for the helmet section. If we want to do any amount of questions, we can do that. Cool. Continuing on from helmets, the next thing we're going to talk about is lights, and I've got this little pile of lights here. Lights are particularly important, obviously, especially when riding at night, but even during the day, you know, letting cars know you're there is a very important thing, especially when riding around in the city. In Durham, currently the light law for bicycles is that even just a few years ago, you were required to have a rear light and a front reflector, and that has changed. I think within even just the past year, you are now required to have both a front and rear light, something that is actually battery powered. And it's a really good idea to have lights after dark, almost no matter what. And adding reflectors also as well can be a good thing. So in choosing a light, you know, if you want to get something that is less expensive, you know, a battery operated light is going to be a really great way to go. And we've got this set for just around $15. And that will at least get you street legal. So if you don't want to spend a lot of money on a light set, but you still want to be safe, you know, a battery operated, just a standard battery. This one uses the a pancake battery. If you can see these little buttons down here, that's the batteries that these go in. But also a light like the Planet Bike Blinky 3 here runs on just a standard battery. These work on AAAs. So that's kind of your standard battery type outfit. And then the other type is going to be the other battery type or rechargeable type lights are going to be look something like this. A little bit more significant, a little bit higher cost too. These lights are, you know, $10 to $15. To get into a USB light for a single, you're usually looking around $25. This combo kit is about $55 for the pair. But we've got really awesome technology, and this is LEDs are one of the places in the bicycle industry that have been just really super cool. You have two new technologies, LEDs, and the The LEDs are getting brighter and cheaper and better for cycling, even LEDs that are being made specifically for cycling, which is really awesome. And then you've got lithium-ion batteries. The lithium-ion batteries are super small. They hold charge for a really long time. They're also much better than some of the older rechargeables where a lithium-ion battery doesn't have a battery memory, so to speak. So you can charge it at any point during its cycle, be it totally dead or be it 50% through its battery life, which is really great. So if you know you're going out for that long night ride and you don't know how much charge you have left, you can pop them in during the day and then be ready to go for that longer ride in the evening. I really do like the new lithium-ion batteries. They're type lights. They're quite bright, and they really will save you a lot of money in the long run versus the battery type lights. You figure it's probably going to save you during its lifetime the amount you would have spent on just standard batteries. So it's kind of a great way to go. Plus, they're a little bit more eco-friendly, obviously. And when these die, you can take them to hazmat and they'll recycle them, which will all once a month. I run out there with anything that's a lithium type battery. So then in making a choice on lights, if you are someone who's more of a casual rider and you are just riding around in the city, places where there's cars and places where there's street light, going with just the battery operated is probably going to be fine for someone like that. You're really just trying to let cars see you. You're not necessarily trying to see what's in front of you on the road. So that blinky is going to let the car know that you're there. And, in doing that, it's going to keep you much safer, and it gives the car a much better chance in seeing you because, if you're out there in a dark shirt, it's going to be really difficult for somebody to see you. And as I stated earlier, it is the law. So having them is a good idea. But if you're riding around the city and you're going to be where there's street light, this is going to be probably fine for you. Or again, if you're a more casual rider. So if you're somebody that rides a lot or you know that you're going to ride at night, we tend to sell a lot of lights after daylight savings time because the clock switches and then suddenly we've got customers, who are leaving work at 5 o'clock and they're like, oh gosh, it's dark when I'm leaving and I need to get some lights because, I'm feeling pretty unsafe out there. In that case, if you are, that commuter or that person that is using their bike every day, then going with the rechargeables are great. Couple of things about these. They are rated in lumens, and the higher the lumen rating, the brighter they're going to be. There's also, different lights that will have battery life. So a lot of times on the packaging, you can see how long they're going to last on different points of their lighting. So some of them will be able to sort of ramp up the amount of lumens. You'll have something that's a 200 lumen, 300, 400, 500 lumen light. And maybe that 500 lumen light will have cycles where it can do, sort of a varied brightness, sort of low, medium, and high lighting. Obviously, the low light is going to be not as bright, but it's going to last longer. The brightest cycle is going to not last as long, but it is going to show your way, especially if you're on a trail that's really dark, particularly like, say, Ellerby Creek here in Durham, just down the road from us. When you're going down that thing at night, it is pitch black. You can't see your hand in front of you. So going with a rechargeable is a really good way to go. Another thing to consider is like how fast you're going. So if you are going particularly quickly on a hill or something like that, and you really need to see in front of you, you're going to need to go with a brighter light because you're going to need a light that can shoot a beam much further down the road so you can anticipate anything that's in front of you. So I'm, cruising down Irwin really fast, I'm going to want to have a, really bright light out in front of me so I can see potentially what's coming because I'm traveling at a greater rate of speed. Makes a lot of sense, but it's something that a lot of times people don't consider when purchasing lights. And also having sort of multiple lights isn't a bad idea too. Having something that's a blinky light that a car is going to see, but also having the light next to it that's on constantly and is something that's going to light your path isn't a bad way to go. So a light for both sort of scenarios. And that's going to be for your front light as well. Your rear lights are always going to almost leave on blink. Leaving on blink is going to be great in two different reasons. A, it's going to use a lot less batteries, so that light is going to be able to stay on and blink for a lot longer amount of time, leaving it on versus constant. Also, it is a much easier thing for a car to see, and it's much more attention getting. So a car is going to really be able to see that light more easily than something that's on constant, because a blinking light is going to be easier to see versus, say, when it's on constantly, it could mimic a car light. Pretty much the only light on the road that is going to be blinking a lot of times is either an emergency vehicle or a bicycle. And actually in Europe, they have banned a lot of blinking lights because they don't want to mimic an emergency vehicle. They have not done that here yet, luckily. But I do like to leave my rear light on blink because it's a lot easier to see. And then as far as also going back to choosing a light, if you are choosing a light and you don't want to spend all the money on a front and rear USB, I recommend at least getting a rechargeable front. And reason being is for that exact reason. You're probably going to use the front light as a constant beam more often, which is going to chew up more of your battery. And it's better to spend the money on the front like this one. Because your rear being on blink doesn't use as much battery. And so with the front being a USB rechargeable, it will save you some money in the long run and also give you that brighter front light that's going to actually show your way if you need to for that, that occasional time maybe you're in the complete dark and you just can't see. And most of these lights also can be used on blink, depending on the model or the type. This Light in Motion has more of a strobing type feature, and the Light in Motion stuff is really great. This Giant branded light, it does have a more of a blinky type setting, so they do differ between brands. But as long as you get something that's good quality, from a trusted manufacturer, you're gonna get some good life out of it, and they should last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So. Yeah, and that's pretty much it as far as how they go. As far as how they attach, the easier attachments are going to a lot of times be with some sort of rubberized strap. This Light in Motion light has a rubberized strap that goes around your handlebar, and then you can actually leave that rubberized mount on the bar and then pop the light off more easily with like a quick release type situation or some sort of button that you hit to take the light off. Some of them are a little bit more difficult to install. This basic Planet Bike light has a clamp that you can either put around your seat post or your seat stay, which is the tube that comes down off of where your seat goes in. So it gives you multiple mounting options, but this is something that you will have to install with tools. And it's not very hard to do, but it does take a little bit more skill rather than, say, a strap type light that goes on. Some of them are tool free. Some of them you will need, just a basic flat head or Phillips head screwdriver. But the other thing is just with different sizes of posts, seat posts, or seat stays, a lot of times they also come with some rubber on the inside of the packaging. You've got different shims, like a rubber shim that can be put underneath the clamp to take up that space, kind of depending on what size you have. For example, this one comes with 2 different shim sizes, and it can really, make the light hold on there much more tightly. but then B, make it so it's not going to slide down and then fall and become loose and then sort of worthless on your bike. And then going into that, really make sure that your lights are positioned in a way that can be seen. It kind of seems silly to say, but I've seen a lot of people who will, bring bikes in for repair and their lights are sort of tilted down so you can't see it or it's come loose. I also try to recommend to cyclists not to have their light going directly straight, have it slightly pointed down so it's not going directly into cars, through the into a driver's eyes and blinding them, because some of these things are getting quite bright these days and you don't want to have someone who is driving get blinded by your light and then obviously have an accident. So keep in mind of where you're positioning your light and where it's aimed. The rear lights, for obvious reason, should be positioned so they're pretty much straight back. And then that front light should be positioned, it may be just slightly down so it's not going to go directly at a car. And then if you ever have questions on lights as far as greater information, all these companies are going to have their various websites to get more and additional information on lumens and what they're capable of doing and the different modes and features and cycles that they can go through, how to charge them, that type of thing. So you can always contact the manufacturer or the website of the manufacturer to figure out more details. Any questions on that?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Some people put their lights on their helmets. What are the advantages and disadvantages of that?
That's a really super good question. Having your light on your helmet is a great idea, particularly because it's on the top of your head, and being that that light is so high, it's much easier for someone to see. Another reason that I've got this fluorescent helmet is when I'm riding it in the woods, I sure don't look like a deer for potential hunters out there, but also when I'm riding out on the street and I'm coming up to an intersection, this is going to be much easier to see versus something that's dark in color. White is a great way to go for a helmet too if you're it's easier to see a lighter and brighter color than it is something that's dark. But then, yeah, adding a light to your helmet is a great way to go. You can get a number of different products that are out there that attach to the back. Our Giant branded helmet actually has a mount and a clip specifically for it that you can put in there. And then also you can even add a light to the top. A lot of the GoPro type mounts are starting to be universal, so you can use them with a light as well. Some of the lighting companies are making them so they'll pop into that GoPro mount. And that can be really nice because then wherever you're looking, you're shining a light. And a lot of mountain bikers are using that feature to be able to ride more effectively. So then they've got one light on the handlebar, one light on the helmet, and it makes it so where you're going you can see, and then where you're looking you can see at the same time. But yeah, that high mounted light is going to be really great for a motorist to be able to see and add some real flash to you out on the road. I really try my best to look like a Christmas tree out there. The brighter you are, the better off you're going to be for someone to really be able to see you. And also, not even just lights, but adding reflectors. You can buy the 3M material that is like it looks sort of matte when you're looking at it, but when a light hits it, it really, really pops. And you can buy that stickering type material for pretty inexpensive, and it's a great way to have something on your bike that when a car's lights hit it, it's really going to pop, and doesn't take any batteries at all either, obviously. Or you can get the day glow stickers, which you can see as well, and that really helps cars have some a chance of seeing you out there on the road at night. Any other questions on that?
Some of these details, thank you, Tyler, for what you're doing. These details are really granular and very helpful. I like what you said about two lights simultaneously, one maybe strobing and the other one constant.
Yeah.
Clever thinking. I was wondering if you thought about, or what your thoughts are on the difference between like daytime running lights and nighttime usage. You kind of talked about it a little bit, but when you mentioned, for example, don't point the lights directly at the driver's line of sight, I'm guessing you're kind of thinking about in terms of nighttime, when you can light up the road in front of you and avoid striking them directly in the eyes. But maybe during daytime, the strategy is to be as visible as possible. Do you think that there are any distinctions? What are the kind of distinctions you'd like to make between like daytime strategy and nighttime strategy for using lights, if you could package that up?
Yeah, that's a great question. I didn't touch as much on that. I would say during daytime use for your lights, I would almost always run them on blink, both front and rear, because at that point a car is going to be able to see you, easily. So really that blinking light is more of an attention getter, like, hey, I'm here, and making sure that that person that maybe isn't completely paying attention to the road sees that little spark in front of them, and they look up from their phone and say, what was that little thing that I just saw off in the distance? And they kind of come to and say, oh, wow, there's a cyclist right there, and I wouldn't have seen them otherwise. So running on blink, I think, during the day is the best thing to do, because, again, with the big ball of orange in the sky, it's going to be very difficult for a car to see the constant light. It's more of an attention-getting blink that's probably going to have somebody sort of come to and actually notice that you're out there. You will have to go with something that's pretty darn bright during a daylight type scenario. The brighter lumen lights, something that's probably going to be 500 lumens plus is what you're going to need to run to actually have a car see it during daylight. It takes an awful lot of lumens to be effective during the daytime. So if you do want to run a daytime light, then definitely go with something that's USB rechargeable and brighter. Those LEDs are going to be enough to pop and be able to have a car see you. So I would recommend that a whole lot. But I personally don't run lights during the day. In coming downtown, I know my route well enough, and I know my places where it's a little bit more sketchy, or I feel a little bit more at risk, so to speak. And when I am going through those intersections or going in those places, I really am more cautious and look to the motorist in the vehicle before a lot of times I even go through an intersection. So until I see the whites of their eyes, in behind that windshield, I usually don't go through the intersection. I want to be 100% sure that they see me before I proceed. For that person that's maybe going out on the country road and they're going out by themselves, then that would be probably a time that, if they are more worried about a car seeing them, that's a pretty good scenario. But it's really up to the user. I would say the lights aren't a bad idea, but during daytime, maybe the fluorescent stuff is a little bit better as far as being able to be more visible. So brighter helmet, one of the safety vests, that type of thing, or brightly colored clothing. That more visible stuff is going to be help you pop out there. So cars are going to be able to see you. But a light isn't a bad way to go either. It just really depends on the user and what they feel comfortable and confident with. If we want to keep going here, next thing on the list that we have is locks. And locks are really a pretty big category, and I could probably talk just about an hour on locks alone. But we've got a lot of different product out there as far as locks, and I'm going to show you just sort of the most, you know, usual suspects here, but there are starting to be a lot of different designs for locks that are out there. We've got the most common are cable lock. This is a very basic cable, and it's got the combo on the bottom. Most of these combos these days are set your own. And then you've got your U-lock. Obviously, these come in various shapes and sizes as well. And then I also kind of pulled out just a separate cable as well by Kryptonite here. The first and foremost, usually when I start talking to people about locks and I'm standing in front of our locks and, you know, somebody's just purchased a new bike or they're, you know, coming in to get something because, you know, they don't have something. Usually the first question I ask, and something that the lock industry has really sort of pushed on bike shops to talk about, is where you're locking and sort of the risk potential that you're putting your bike into. So the two scenarios that I always bring up are the best case scenario. So that's you're locking in front of the coffee shop, and you're sitting in the window with your latte, and the bike is within, you know, eye shot of where you're sitting, and it's a sunny, beautiful day, and there's tons of foot traffic around. Lots of people are walking by your bike. In view by the sidewalk. So that's like sort of your best case scenario. A, you can see it, so you can keep an eye on it. B, there's a lot of people walking around. So if somebody's going to start trying to dismantle your lock, hopefully someone in the crowd is going to be like, hey, is that your bike? I usually a thief isn't going to be so brazen as to like start chopping at a lock that's just out in the middle of nowhere with lots of people walking around. At least you hope they wouldn't be. Then we've got sort of that worst case scenario. So you're in a high risk situation. Your bike is locked somewhere there isn't any foot traffic, and it's actually kind of tucked away in a place where a thief is going to have more time to dismantle the lock. It is going to be left there a long time. So over, say, a 8-9 hour workday, your bike is going to be left there somewhat helpless against potential thief. Also, another thing that people don't think about when locking their bike is the times it's locked there. So Mr. Thief guy comes walking by, hey, there's that really expensive bike sitting there. And it's, let's see, it's 9:30 on a Thursday. And then that guy walks back by and another day and he sees, hey, there's that really nice bike sitting there again. And it's Tuesday at, 6 o'clock. And so they start to kind of gauge when that bike is sitting there and start to formulate an idea of when they can come claim that bike for their own with the proper tools, aka these guys. Other high-risk situations are going to be college campuses where you've got people, preying on college students' bikes. Usually there's a whole rack of very expensive bikes sitting there, and it's easier to grab something off a rack, something like that. So think about your scenario, basically. Where are you locking your bicycle up most days? Then the next thing to think about is, obviously budget and that type of thing, but going with a higher quality lock, depending on your scenario. If you're really that coffee shop person that is going and sitting there for a half an hour, then this cable lock type situation is going to be probably fine for you. And this will probably just be enough to keep the honest people honest, as I like to say. If you are that college kid that is leaving their bike out overnight or in that dark, secluded alley, then this U-lock is going to be really your way to go. And this is a much more durable type of lock for that long-term or more sketchy situation. And I will say that with a cable like this, these really are able to be defeated with a bolt cutter such as this. We had a customer come in the other day who had forgotten their combo, and I dismantled this lock with that exact cutter in about 4 seconds. It'll just go right through the dang thing. And this tool is a much easier tool to sort of conceal than something that is going to be able to cut through this type of lock. Durham, I will also say, I don't hear about the quote unquote professional bike thief in Durham as much as I would a Chicago or a New York or a DC, that type of area where you actually have professional thieves. That's what they do all day. They have all the tools, they know all the places to go, and they're going to get your bike almost no matter what you do. So a lot of it is making it as difficult as possible for the thief, and second being the higher hanging fruit on the tree versus another bike that may be next to you. And I feel really bad for the guy that's next to you, but if you have this lock and you lock your bike up and the bike next to you has this lock on it, there's a really good chance that your bike's still going to be there when you get back to it. So being the higher hanging fruit as far as your security is much better versus getting something that's cheaper. Now, you also can get both. You know, if there's that scenario where you're going to the coffee shop and you want to not take your big hulking U-lock, then going with the cable is going to be just fine, you know, kind of knowing your situation. But if you're at all nervous, you know, the best thing to do, the best policy is to always take that U-lock. And let me talk a little bit more about the technology going around here on the U-lock. So this is heavier, it is bulkier, but it is much stronger. A good quality U-lock, so something that has a decent quality metal for the U, is going to be fairly impossible to cut through with a bolt cutter type tool. You really have to get something that's more of like an abrasive type cutting tool to get through this guy. And it's out there in the world, but it's less likely that somebody is going to be just wandering around with one of those things. So going with this, I feel a lot of times really confident to, you know, customer and recommending this. The bad side of this lock is that it is quite heavy and unwieldy, so carrying it can be a little bit more of a pain. Most of the locks are going to come with some sort of mounting bracket, and I have found throughout my years of doing this that all of the mounting brackets are pretty terrible. This is a big, heavy thing that has a lot of weight and is swinging around, and a little plastic mounting bracket is doesn't really stand a chance to try to hold this too great. When you get into a smaller lock like this, they can work pretty well. The Kryptonite mount has gotten definitely much better over the years, and for something smaller and lighter like this, it will work fairly well, and a lot of times I'll mount it for a customer. But in going with something like this, a lot of times you're better off throwing this either in a bag or on a rack, a bicycle mounted rack, or in, you know, a pannier bag, you know, some sort of bag that's mounted to that rack, that type of thing. Don't maybe throw it around your handlebars unless you're traveling a very short distance, because it's just going to be banging all around. And I see bicycles all the time that have taken a lot of abuse from one of these, just constantly swaying and hitting it every which way, almost like ball peening the paint off of it, more or less. So if you do go this route, be prepared to you know, figure out some sort of scenario to carry this with you easily. Another way to do it is in a situation where you're going to the same place every day, say work or school. It's not a terrible idea to actually just leave the U-lock there mounted to a rack. So in that scenario, maybe you even have multiple locks, and it is a little bit more money, but it can save you some headache and heartache as far as hauling this big hunk of metal around. So you get to work, you lock up, and then when you leave, you just reattach that lock to the place that you park every day. So then you don't have to haul it home with you The lock is going to obviously take a little bit more weather, so it may not last quite as long, but the convenience of that is really nice, and knowing that the lock is always going to be there for you when you hit the place that you're going every day. But almost always I will recommend a U-lock. There are some newer type technologies out there. Abus has something called the Bordeaux lock, which is this sort of multi positioned and it's put together with like a bunch of rivets, but they're like basically bones that connect, and it folds up into this nice package. I've seen something like that. They're okay. I see the lock break on it a lot, and I've seen them defeated fairly easily. So I usually steer people away from that. There's a new company called AutoLock that's making a sort of almost zip tie looking lock that's probably somewhere just above a cable type lock as far as strength and durability. But if you get on the internet and do any amount of searching around of like how to defeat X lock, you see some guy go like this, and it's poof, like magic. They've gotten that thing open. So as far as in reviewing that information, try to leave your bike somewhere that is more out in the open, not so secluded. Buy the more expensive lock, and this U-lock is it's $35, so we're not talking piles of money here, and it does come with a cable that's separate, and then try to use it every single time. I see and hear of people all the time saying, oh, I always lock my bike up, but there was that one time where I left it in my backyard and I forgot to go get it at the end of the day, and then boom, it was gone the next day. Or I left it on my porch last night, not locked up, and somebody walked onto my porch and grabbed it. I hear that so often, whereas it's very, very, very rare that I talk to someone that says, oh, I locked up my bike last night with my U-lock, and in the morning it was gone. It's pretty rare that I hear that type of scenario, especially in Durham. It just doesn't seem to, we don't seem to be, at least hopefully not anytime soon, a hotbed for bicycle theft. One side note, this bike comes with the cable, and this having a separate one of these is kind of great as far as to add some flexibility to your locking. If you are in a place that is not that ideal situation, so the city has what I like to call a staple out, kind of curbside. And it's just that U-shaped piece of metal that you can easily lock to. It's a solid piece of metal that isn't going to be able to, be pulled out of the ground or dismantled or cut. That's, again, in that ideal scenario. But sometimes you're in a place where you can't find that ideal scenario, and sometimes a separate cable like this can be handy to take with you. So you're locking up to something that's more oddly shaped, like a tree or bigger, that you can't get your U-lock around. Having that separate cable is really nice. It adds some versatility to your locking repertoire and makes it so if you are locking something that's just odd, you'll still be able to get locked up and not maybe have to worry as much about your bike. Also, if you're going, maybe with a kid or your friend, and you need to lock up multiple bikes, and a U-lock's just not going to cut it, this can be really, really great to add, so you can get and capture more bicycles. And there's lots of ways to use this. Some people also use it to capture like a front or rear wheel or both. And simply you can do that by putting one end through the other, and like a lasso, putting this through. So whatever is in the circle part of this, you're grabbing, and then this eyelet can be run back to your U-lock. So, it's going to be securely fastened. I usually do recommend not locking to anything that isn't metal. So, you know, again, we have just in front of the bike shop here, we've got 2 staples that the city installed, which is, you know, perfect and great. But locking to a tree or something that's wood, like some spindles on your deck, or you know, like a 2x4 that's attached to your house, or 4x4. It's pretty crazy what people will do to steal bikes, and if they can come back there with some sort of saw apparatus and cut through that wood much more easily, they probably will. And so I do recommend trying to, you know, lock to something that's metal. Secondly, make sure that you're capturing part of your frame. So it's a little bit difficult to demonstrate that right now, but putting this U-lock portion through the frame of the bike, and then to that metal thing that you're attaching to, that's another thing that sometimes people don't realize, that they're not necessarily capturing something that can't be either easily pulled off the bike or quick released off the bike. And then maybe your rear wheel is still sitting at the rack, but then the rest of the bicycle has been absconded with, and you know, then you're you know, sitting there by the side of the road. And I will say, I've had a bicycle stolen, and it's probably like just about the worst feeling that you can have. It's that pit of your stomach, like, oh no, my bike, and all those emotions and memories of you riding it sort of rush back, and suddenly you realize that it's gone. So, and you know, we'll sell a $400 or $500 bike, you know, something that's really, you know, of good quality, and then we get to that part of the sale where they don't want to spend the money on the lock. My heart always starts to ache, like, oh, let's just please spend a little bit of money on this lock. So, you know, you're not back here buying another bike, you know, in several months or a year, because the thing was lost in the mix of the world out there. So I was also going to mention one thing about a key versus a code. So last thing to mention here, you've got these code type, set your own combo type guys versus a key. The key is definitely more secure than a combo. I've seen people pick the combo locks, though it does take a little bit of time. A key isn't quite as convenient, but it is more durable. Some of the combo U-locks are starting to get a lot better. So if you really are a non-key person, a combo is not a bad way to go with a U-lock, but the combinations on the cables are more easily picked. And it's basically because you can kind of manipulate this, combo while you're messing with it. One of the guys that worked here was a pro at it, because sometimes we'd have to get these off to work on the bikes, and he'd be able to work on it for 5 minutes and usually get them off there. So as far as security, the key is better, but some of the U-locks are starting to have you know, better quality hardware on them, where a combo is not a bad way to go. I think that's about as much of my lock stuff that I can think of off the top of my head. Any questions on that?
Here's a quick question. Sometimes a bike will have quick release on the front and back wheel. Do you ever see somebody just opportunistically taking a wheel off a bike?
Yeah, people will steal anything that's not nailed down, I always say, and I've definitely seen on several occasions somebody comes in with they're missing their front wheel, and you know, it's always a bummer, and it's kind of surprising how expensive it is to replace a wheel on a bike, especially a rear, because you've got the wheel itself, you've got the gear cluster, you've got a tire and a tube, plus the installation fee to put it all in. So it can actually sort of add up pretty quickly. And adding a cable like this to your locking regimen isn't a bad way to go. So you can capture that quick release wheel, or you know, sometimes you can even buy something that's thinner and smaller than this to capture a seat that's a quick release as well. But also on the flip side, you can buy, instead of having a quick release on your wheels, you can also replace that with either a safety skewer, so something that has a very proprietary keyway, that only can be undone with your key, or you can get something as simple as just an Allen wrench type. There are several companies that make a locking skewer that doesn't have necessarily a proprietary sort of key system, but just an Allen wrench. And so again, that's sort of keeping the honest people honest. So making sure that somebody can't just flick that quick release and go. At least they would have to have some amount of tool to take one of your wheels off. But yeah, locking, the keys are just do it every single time, and then buying that higher quality lock from the get-go and not skimping is really the two best recommendations I can make. Good on questions there.
I have a quick question. if you don't
Yeah.
mind. Yeah. So again, really good stuff. I'm glad to hear that Durham's not as bad as Chicago or New York.
Yes.
If you hear anything about like a black market surfacing on bike theft sales, then that's definitely something to talk about. But I was going to ask you, like, because locking is so essential both for peace of mind and actually to thwart actual criminal intent. What is your favorite way or an optimal way to carry bike locks? Because like you said, as you move up the scale of safety for a bike lock, you're also normally the payload or the carry weight is higher. And I'm thinking about different ways that I mount locks on my bike when I'm traveling. But I was kind of thinking from your technical expert perspective, like where are your favorite places to position them or carry them? What are your thoughts?
And this is kind of always the crux of the situation: is the heavier and more terrible it is to carry with you, which kind of stinks. Even into getting into like the chain locks, I see people like wearing them around their waist to try to carry them with them, and those are really durable and strong locks, but it almost has to be at that point an accessory to your outfit to take it with you. So as far as actually mounting the U-lock to the bike, one of the things I hate about it is that it just adds a bunch of weight to the bike itself. I would use the mounting bracket if you can. Part of the problem with the mounting bracket is that you also have a range of sizes of bikes. So that extra small women's frame, sometimes it's just that lock is just not going to be able to position. You can twist and turn that thing every darn which way you want, and it's just not going to go on there. Whereas, the extra large bike, it's much easier to mount a lock to that, just because you have so much more space to deal with. Try to use the locking bracket. I like to put it in the triangle part of the frame. So if you've got that back triangle and that larger front triangle, usually the front triangle is a good place to put it. If there's space there. Some of it has to do with how the bracket lets the lock back out. So, in putting it in the frame, you still have to get the thing out. So you want to make sure that you leave yourself space so this thing can travel. This is the bracket on this. It has to be able to travel this amount of space to get it back out of the bracket. So then you have to deal with that. And you've got accessories in there. Maybe you've got a water bottle cage and a water bottle. Maybe you've got a pump that's attached. So there can be a lot of obstacles in just getting this, set up right. But I guess you kind of have to think through your particular scenario. This slip it to have in your back pocket, but it is something that's easier to take with you. It's smaller and easier to deal with. And actually, against a leverage attack, this is a really great lock because of the smaller U shape. It's really hard to leverage this off. So it's stronger that way. On the flip side of the coin, though, it's really hard to find a place to lock your bike up if you can't find the sort of standard bike rack. Luckily, in the city, we have a good bit of them. But if you're out in the world and you got to lock to something weird, this lock is going to be really difficult to make that work. So With the college kids, a lot of times I'll recommend just throwing it in the backpack. It adds a lot of weight, but it's easier and a quicker scenario to lock and unlock. And so you don't have to have that weight on your bike. Again, having a rack, and this is for the next section, and it's a good segue, I guess. Having a rack like this, you could, plop your lock down on top of here and have a bungee that comes across to hold that thing. That's a great way to carry it, get that weight, off your back or, from your bag. But there's also a lot of different ways that you can angle the bracket. So this has this little tiny pin here, and you can change the angle of that to try to mount it and position it more easily. But it's difficult, and it's really a case-by-case scenario as to trying to install these properly and with any amount of longevity, because this thing's banging around and it's just dying to ruin that bracket, unfortunately. So if you can use a bag or strap it to a rack or put it in a pannier bag, that's a great way to go.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Last but not least, just quickly, we're going to go kind of segues a little bit as far as carrying that lock. A lot of times when you're out there in the world and you're riding your bike around, you're trying to either do an errand, some grocery shopping, maybe you're trying to take some things with you to wherever you're going. And the most common things to typically use would be either a backpack or some kind of pannier bag. And when I'm saying that, I'm talking about a bag like this. This one's by a great company called Banjo Brothers that makes a really decent quality and really inexpensive setup. But these have different mounting brackets. Hopefully you can see that in the picture if I get the light right. You've got some different brackets here and here, and then a pull strap here. And this hardware is all designed to coordinate and correspond with a rack like this. And so this can be slipped on the side here, and then you can take stuff with you, much more easily. I get a lot of people that will ask me about front baskets, and I do like a front basket for a bulkier and lighter item. The biggest problem with the baskets a lot of times is that it becomes sort of the steering weight of the bicycle. So when you're holding on your handlebars and you've got that basket in front of you, and you put something heavy, typically like something that's liquid is going to weigh a lot, it starts to become part of the steering weight of the bicycle, and so it's not the greatest place to store stuff. If you're going to throw, you're going to go down to the farmer's market and you're going to throw your kale in there and a light jacket, well, that's kind of perfect scenario. And a lot of people get sort of trapped up in the lore and aesthetic of, you've got your front basket and you're traveling down the road and the wind is whipping through your hair. And that's a lovely sort of vision to have, but a lot of times the front basket isn't the greatest thing for carrying heavier weight stuff. And so a lot of times I try to go back option. When the weight of your accessories or what you're hauling is on the back of the bike, it's much easier to deal with. You don't notice it as much too while you're actually traveling, particularly in a straight line. And these racks can hold quite a bit of weight. A lot of times they're rated for 30, 40, 50 pounds, kind of depending on the quality level of them. Some of the stuff that's more of like a touring rated type rack is going to hold quite a bit of weight. So I usually will really recommend people go with something that's more like this. And then this is, once you get this attached to your bike, and as long as you have something, of bike shop quality, that was purchased at an independent bicycle dealer, typically those higher quality bikes are going to have the mounting brackets and hardware where these eyelets and rack stays need to be installed, and it's a much more easy install than on something that's, you know, cheap. But yeah, this is your springboard then to add all the things on here that are great for carrying. You can go with, like I said, this pannier bag that goes on the side, and there's tons of different sizes and shapes of these things, kind of depending on what you're going with. You've got waterproof as an option. You've got just really basic, you know, bags that are designed around the idea of you dropping a brown paper bag in it after you've gotten your run from the co-op. You also can do something as inexpensive as, once you get this installed, just zip tying down a plastic milk crate, which a lot of times I see people do if they're looking for that cheap option. A lot of times women who have that, you know, that purse that they like to take with them going out because it has all their things in there, they don't want to unpack that purse just to put it in another bag. And a lot of times putting that that rack on the top, or the milk crate on the top of this, is a great way. You can just sling whatever bag you have or backpack. I've seen a lot of the college kids doing that too. They put the backpack in there. I do recommend putting some sort of bungee across that, because I've seen someone hit a speed bump before and then boom, and the thing goes flying out the back and they don't hear it. And then suddenly they get to where they're going and their bag's not in there anymore. So it's not a bad idea to fix that, at least some sort of way. But that's sort of the least expensive option, is going with that milk crate, and it can be good for a lot of users. But there's tons of this kind of hardware out there, and a lot of it comes down to what you're hauling. If you're hauling stuff that's not going to be easily damaged, then, you know, getting something that's just a basic bag is fine. If you're hauling home your top secret CIA documents, then the waterproof kind of thing is probably really the way to go, or probably more likely would be a laptop. They make a lot of the bags that are even laptop specific. So, you know, when you've got, say, a certain size, like a 13, 15, 18 inch, you can buy something that's a padded sleeve specifically for that. Another bag that is out there is the trunk bag, and that's what this guy is. This is also by Banjo Brothers, and the difference between the trunk and the pannier is that the trunk actually sits on top. That is really the only difference there. So this is the top bag, the trunk bag, and this one's pretty inexpensive. I think at $50, and you've got bags on the sides, a big compartment on the top. And these even have like a shoulder strap that go with them. So if you want to take them off and take them inside to where you're going to do some shopping, you can. But those are some different, you know, things to do some hauling with and kind of make your bike more of a beast of burden and hauling device. The only thing I would say about this kind of rack scenario is that if you are adding a lot of weight to the back of your bike, you want to make sure that your rear wheel and your bicycle are up to that task. So, you know, when adding a lot of weight to it, it can start to affect your rear wheel or your bike if it is not of, you know, as good a quality. You can start to have problems with the spokes on the rear wheel if it is something that's more light duty. So think about that as far as you know, what scenarios you're going to be putting your bike through for hauling stuff. So. But I think that's about it. Unless there's any other last questions, I will let you stop listening to my voice, because I'm tired of talking too.